This is an unusual privilege for me and probably for you, because of all the churches I have served, this is the seventh, and either pastor or associate pastor. This is the youngest. Amen? Because most of the churches were 150 years old, 250 years old, and there were no charter members still there to talk to. And we still have 5 of our charter members who are not only on this side of resurrection, but they still worship with us all the time, and they're all here tonight. And to introduce our program, let me call on Dr. Benjamin Davis.
I arrived at CBF in fall of 1974, 45 years ago. I'm the new kid here. It was a fully functioning church before I got here. Something happened, something brought it together. And what we're going to do is find out what happened, how it started, what the fun things were, some of the exciting things, and give us a chance to hopefully bat things back and forth among them. Mostly I'm going to be quiet and let them do the talking because they've got the knowledge and I don't. Okay? Dan and Beth, they're right here. They're going to come and join us. Idella, Donna, Pearl.
Ben,
These are the old folks.
is your mic on? It's on?
It says it's on.
Okay.
Oh, yes, and Janet. What's your name? I didn't recognize her because of the hair color.
And I know it's a pain, but if you can, pass the microphones around so it'll go into the great computer in the sky. And talk into the end of it, very close to your mouth, please.
To get started, let's just find out how you found out about CBF. First time. What happened? How'd you hear about it? Anybody started? We'll bat it back and forth. Hopefully, we'll hear some contradictory statements tonight.
Use mic. Use Donna. Use mic.
People see things differently. That's what we want to see.
I was introduced to CBF by Tom and Marcia Whitlock. They were neighbors of ours. We met, we're 50-some years ago in an apartment complex in Woodlawn, and went to the same church and took up our friendship. And when we moved to Columbia, they moved also to Columbia, but they found out about CBF and tried really hard to get us to come. And we were very much ensconced in Temple Baptist Church in Woodlawn. And both of us taught Sunday school. I was in the choir, and it was really hard to change, to come out here. But once we moved out here, it became a little easier. So that's how I was introduced to CBF. In 1971 is when we came.
Who's next? Who's next? Somebody
I
else?
think it should be Idella, because I think she's the first of the group, the first one.
Y'all know I talk so much, so long, and I wanted to give other people a chance to talk. Well, me and my family moved to Annapolis in 1968, came to work. And we immediately joined First Baptist Church of Annapolis, which we love so much. In fact, my son Michael was baptized in that church. So we went there for a year. And but then we moved to Columbia in 1969, the next year, because we had heard about it before we left Florida, but didn't know we were so close. And we went back and forth to Annapolis, but that was, at that time, it was gonna take an hour to get to Annapolis. So we ended up started looking for places around here, and so at the time, the Methodist, Presbyterian, and Lutherans, and also the Catholics all were meeting at Slayton House, so we started going there. And I also started participating we formed a gospel choir there. And then it was advertised in the paper that they were going to be starting a Baptist church here in Columbia. And they gave the date, it was March 25th, 1970. And so that was Palm Sunday. So me and my husband and 3 children, we all dressed up sharp for Palm Sunday. And this was a new church in Columbia. We thought it was going to be a big, church. I used to have been in big churches all my life. And here, when we got there were 12 people. I was in the shock because, a meeting over at Slayton, the Methodist Presbyterian and all that, because they were waiting for Wild Lake Interfaith Center to open. And it was a big group. So there were 12. It was a nice service, but I didn't plan to come back. I was looking for me a bigger church, to be a choir and all that kind of stuff. And, but on that Tuesday night, this was Sunday, on that Tuesday evening, we get a knock on our door, and it's Pastor Jim Hamlin and Marshall Whitlock. And they wanted to know if they could come in, they were glad to see it. And we were impressed by that. And so they came in and talked with us and trying to ask us, if we'd come back and be a part. Another thing that surprised me, that with that 12 people, they were all white. And I didn't expect that because the congregation was mixed, at the Methodist Presbyterian and all that. So, but then it was Southern Baptist, so I ended up saying, but I said, I guess God ended up sent me there maybe to help integrate it, because I did end up, I got the IAs to end up come, and I got Taylor and Ruby Chestnut to come, so we had a mixed, congregation. And, excuse me, but I've ended up being a part of it. Since then, I was the first choir. Ruth Newsom from Mount Hebron Presbyterian Church was our pianist. And I would end up singing solos, and then my sister Diane, who had come from Florida with us, and she was in college, so she'd come sometime and do duets with me. And then finally Lalani and Earl ended up came because Pastor Hamlin had run into Lalani. She was singing somewhere in the community, so he talked them into end up coming. So therefore, then we started doing duets together, and also they had us come to the lake for the cooperative ministry, where we had the Easter services and all, and Lalani and I sang duets there, and then with the co-op we sang solo, and all a part of the cooperative ministry here. Until this was end up a Jewish, Christian. We formed as a Christian Jewish center, but then later in the years they started bringing in, I guess, the Muslims and the Hindus and the others, and we did that Thanksgiving and stuff together. But I stopped at that time because. We were not worshiping the same God. So, but I'll stop. You can kind of give somebody else some time, because I got a lot more.
Thanks, Adele. Earl, are you next up?
I guess, well, as Adele said, Jim Hamlin had heard Luana sing somewhere, and you know, checked with her about us joining. So we visited, and you know, seemed like a nice bunch of people. So we thought we'd, you know, worship with them for a while, and that turned into an almost 50-year thing. So, and then and I've got some, you know, a little book of memory stuff that if anyone wants to look at it, they can. One of the comments I would make is that some people have noted that we get along together pretty well. And I attribute that to the fact that we moved about 3 or 4 times, you know, first from First Presbyterian Church, and then to the school, and then to the church over, Abiding Savior. And so what it is, when the church is moving around a lot, you want to behave yourself and be nice to people because they might not tell you where they're going to go next. So that's why we're going to go. And that's about it. That's about it.
The girl mentions that we worship the Abiding Savior Lutheran Church. They moved the time of their service to suit us.
Would be met in the afternoon, it was not in the morning, it was 1 o'clock.
Okay, I read about the flyer, that's how I knew about it. We had been here not very long, and had looked around for churches in Laurel and I don't know wherever, and hadn't found one we liked very much. And this one was in the flyer, but it was in the afternoon. Isn't that a weird time to have church? So I went and took my 2 kids, and Leslie kind of liked it, and she was excited because they had Sunday school, which was after church. And she went to Sunday school, and she said, "I like it here, Mommy." And John was just a little thing, and their chairs in the back of the auditorium, that was the nursery. They were those swinging chairs. So John got put back there at some point, and I think it was Amy and the other one, and maybe Brad Whitlock. There weren't many kids here that age. And John is not a quiet person, if you've met him since. And he's going, all through the sermon. And I got up to go get him, take him out, and Jim said, "Sit back down." And he said, "Anybody that likes the sound of that baby singing can leave now." And I thought, oh, I love this man. And then he preached, and that was it. He really did it.
Right on the clue. Right on cue.
This is a test to see if we still feel it.
Right. And that got me. I wanted to be part of here. I wanted to hear his sermons again.
Excellent sermon.
Oh, they were amazing. We're in the after church thing. I loved it. We discussed the sermons and we disagree with him, and it was so exciting to be part of. And my grandfather had been a charter member in the church I grew up in. I'd known that all my life, and here I was going to be a charter member of the church. You got to realize that we were all young then. We were 20s and 30s, and it was so exciting. Here we were the grown-ups in church. We were going to the meetings, and we were deciding how things should be done. And, well, I was hooked from the beginning. And Ruth was playing for the service. But when we started doing afternoon things, and the charter service was an afternoon thing, Jim came to me and said, "You're on." And I was on from then forevermore. I'm still here. And it's been a great place to be. I've loved every bit of it. Well, most every bit.
That's Dad.
Well, they got
What you guys experienced, yeah.
Shortly after we moved to Columbia in 1970, we weren't the first at CBF, but we found out about it. At first we started, we moved from a very large Southern Baptist church in Louisville. We had a good family set up there. We could have stayed there forever. But we found out that there was a new town being built on the East Coast. We didn't know who it was, but we had heard about it at our work in Louisville. Now, I could have stayed in Louisville, and we had a good life there, but we were intrigued by the ability to do this. We were all volunteers at where we worked with GE, and so we grabbed at the chance to experience this. So we started when we moved here, we were kind of shocked that there were no big churches, but there was a new town, and so we took that up. We got here, we spent most of the time trying to find the churches. We knew what the CBF was doing. Jim Hamblin was he was a startup minister from the Home Mission Board, and he was getting his feet wet, trying to find out also what he could do. So we started looking around, and we went to all the churches that we knew about. We were not interested in any other church because we were from a large church in Louisville. So we were not interested in going to another denomination or another church. We traveled around looking for Baptist churches where we could find them. We finally heard about the Columbia Baptist Fellowship. We kind of knew what was going on there, but Jim Hamblin was, he was a different kind of preacher. He was a good preacher. Jim was when we finally found the way we found about Jim Hamblin was that my wife got tired of our kids were in school, grade school. They walked to church, walked to school, and she got tired of having to come home for lunch. I was coming home for lunch, and she wanted nothing to do with that. She wanted some free time, so she went to work for what was at that time was the equivalent of the welcome wagon in Columbia. So that gave her time to find out about what was going on, and she met people, and we talked about looking at this new church, which we did, and Jim Hamlin was a neat guy, and
Good friend.
he was. So we visited, we kind of knew what he was doing, but he was kind of shrewd too. Jim was one of the neat guys. He was a friend, and he operated on a different schedule. But we visited, and we got intrigued, and we first got there, we expected a little more, but there was, what, 12 families, I think, at the time?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. One of my first memories of Jim and the way he worked, I had been a deacon in Crescent Hill, and when he found out I was a deacon, he said, "Okay, you're our deacon." At that, you know, the deacons, once you're a deacon, you're always a deacon. So he said, "You're our deacon," and just like that. So I had to do the deacon things. Well, I was the only one at that time who was a deacon. So I did the services that were required of a deacon. And one of the things I remember in my deacon chores, I'm rather a stickler for authentic deacons. And so I found myself, you wouldn't recognize it right now, but between Ellicott City and Catonsville, there was only one place in the middle of the stretch. You had a little shopping center that was, so I had to go to, on the way to Catonsville to a bakery, and I was insisting on getting the bread for the communion, and I was trying to find a bakery that would give you the unleavened bread. Now we had, of course, all the Baptist churches I knew had unleavened bread, one kind or another. You had the wafers, and you had the matzo, and but I wanted to get unleavened bread, the flat unleavened bread for our communion service. And I found myself driving all the way to Catonsville to find a bakery who baked that kind of bread. So that's one memory I had of that.
Yeah, thanks. Now, Beth, you probably came because he came, but why did you get here?
Well, I got here because your dead mom, Dad was right, when we got.
Mike.
When we moved to Columbia in July of 1970, every Sunday we would go to a different church. We went into Washington, we went to University Baptist Church in Baltimore near Johns Hopkins. That church was probably the closest church to what we were used to. but CBF was different. I mean, Idella just reminded me about the IAs and the Chestnuts. Chestnuts, they live down the street from us, and the IAs, their son Dexter Chestnut, and I mean, we all played together in the neighborhood. Remember the Chestnuts, Terry?
Yeah.
Yeah, on Thunderhill. And the IAs, we all went to school together. And so it was really neat that it was a group of kids. Now, I was only 10 years old, and my brother was 9, so we had a great time. And one of my memories of the early times was when the adults would be having their, I guess we would be the equivalent of small groups. We'd go to everybody's houses, you know, we'd rotate going to everybody's houses, and the kids, we'd just be unleashed in the neighborhood or in the basement. Or I remember playing hide and go seek in Jim Hamlin's townhouse with like 6 or 7 kids hiding in all kinds of places. But it was really fun. It was fun to be a kid in a church that we knew was special, with people that, I mean, race didn't matter then. This was our church family. Race doesn't matter now because this is still our church family. I have one more memory, but I don't know if you want me to tell it now.
Yeah, would like to get to the kind of the fun memories that you guys have, interesting memories too. So
Okay, so one other one is, one of the most significant memories I have is when Mr. Moreland, who was Dr. Moreland, but I didn't know that at the time, he was my Sunday school teacher. And this is when we met at First Pres on Sunday afternoon.
Right.
And for Sunday school, he had us reading Psalm 24. And so I was in the 5th grade, and he said, now I want you all to take this big newsprint and pick out a verse and draw a picture about this. And so we all did. There was like 5 or 6 kids in the class. And then his idea was, once we had all the pictures for all the verses, he was going to hang them up on the wall, and then he was going to take pictures of them, and then have, you know, 1 or 2 of the kids in the class, which I was one that he chose, to actually read the verses of the psalm into a tape recorder so that we could do a slide presentation for one of our church family dinners. That is probably the most significant memory I have as a kid in CBF, growing up in CBF.
Wow.
Yeah. That was really cool. And Psalm 24 still is one of my favorite songs.
Once they get in, they don't get out.
No, they don't.
Okay, how about some memories? I've heard things about salt, I've heard things about whitewater rafting. What was going on with you guys in the early days?
How much do you want to know?
Something should be told. Donna, you got to talk about them. We did a lot of social things together. Oh, I'm loud.
We've got to get it into the machine.
Oh, I'm sorry. We did, when we were younger, we did a lot of social things together as couples and as families. And one of the things that we did was we went to a roller skating rink.
Oh, I know.
And we just had a good old time, except Della fell. Most of us couldn't skate. No, we couldn't skate. No. And she lost her balance and fell, and her wig fell off. And then Tom Whitlock tried to help her get up, and he fell down. And we were all laughing so hard that I don't think we ever got back to skating again. But that's a really good memory that we have. And also we went bowling, and the same thing. My husband took the ball and went to release it, and he didn't. And he kind of slid down the alley. And of course, we never let him forget that. Because my husband prided himself on being quite the athlete. So when he did that, every time we got together, we had to remind him of that stint on the floor. But we really had a good time together, the whole bunch of us. We had parties. We actually played spin the bottle. That was when we did sit down on the floor and get back up again. But we had lots of games and fun that we did. Card games. board games, you name it. We just had a really good time socially together, as well as our spiritual family. And I think Jim Hamlin had a lot to do with that, in nurturing the camaraderie and the familial. He was an excellent friend, he and his wife both, and still are. Which is really, now we communicate through email, because that's the easy way to do it, but, yeah, we had some good times.
Who's next?
I want to tell about
Grab the mic and you're on.
I just want to tell about some significant things that we were quite a little congregation, even though we started out. We were kind of, the Lord used us powerfully, you know, in the community. And y'all didn't know, we had Sunday evening services during that time too. And, but we sang at the mall, we sang in the different churches, at the Southern Baptist meetings and stuff that we had, that we really meant a lot there, because we brought a little integration there in those in the meetings.
That's right.
But and we sang at the hospital, and Bethany Lane was real important to us. You know, there are 7 churches that sponsored us, and but Bethany Lane played a big role with us in the beginning, because they invited us to come and sing with their choirs and do cantatas. So even though we were small, we ended up having some nice voices too. And we also, while we were at the Presbyterian Church, we had baptism at Rolling Hills Baptist. They were one of our sponsors too. But the Presbyterian didn't have a baptismal pool, so we went, the Presbyterian and CBF, we had baptism down at Rolling Hills Church. And also we started out early doing things like the Messiah.
Yes.
But we had, I guess, our first director was Sherwood from over at Bethany Lane, and then we ended up having pianists, the Millers, and all to help out. And then when we started the church, our first paid musician was Dennis Keller. And so he brought with us, he was the band director and the choir director at Oakland Mills High School. So we got his orchestra and everything that in the place, so we were able to do the Messiah, and then I guess Jan and the played for us. And then after Dennis left, we ended up got no, not Luella Rogers. She didn't come after from Mount Hebron.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
And one of those music teachers from Mount Hebron, and then after that we got Lou Elrod, and Lou Elrod brought us people from Suburna Park, really some outstanding singers that joined our church with us. And she also was able to get University of Maryland. That's where she taught at the University of Maryland. So we got the orchestras and everything from there, too. And but I think I mentioned that Dennis Keller he got his orchestra and kids, and then some of the kids joined our church.
Joe Loftus.
Yeah, Joe Loftus and the Cheese, Frank and T and the Cheese. And then I guess we ended up having we got Lewis, and we ended up having Towson University. And then, but we ended up had quite, it was our choir members, we had people to come and work with us, like Woodlawn High School Gospel Choir, Guilford Baptist, Angelic Singers, the Fort Meade Chapel where Larry Dennis was there, and we started that's when we started our youth the praise corps. he ended up, the church and hired him, and he was with us. And I mentioned Towson State University, University of Maryland, they're symphonists. And we participated in a lot of in the workshops there too, at Fort Meade, St. John Baptist workshops, the Howard County Interfaith. In the city, I told you I've been singing with the Interfaith Choir for about 40-some years. They're in the
word
50s.
about Dennis before you leave, we have behind.
Okay, and we had sign choir and dancers. You know, we had the deaf ministry and all of that. And we started with Lorian and Harmony. We were doing some powerful things for a small church.
Amen.
I just have to say a word about Dennis. Dennis was young, very young, and he was teaching in high school. He was a very, very good musician. He went on to become a music professor somewhere in Arizona. But he was not a Baptist. He had no Baptist background, and he had no music budget. So he would bring music from the schools, mostly. That's when you couldn't mention God in schools. And we sang all sorts of things. We sang in Hebrew.
We sang in Hebrew.
Remember Sing Shalom?
Yep.
Or it was on the, one of the openings of the meeting house. I don't know if they had several, but it was one of the dedication services.
We sang in Hebrew.
We sang it in Hebrew in honor of the Jewish congregation. We sang Ave Maria in honor of the Catholic congregation. We sang, I found Jesus and I don't need you. I don't know who that was in honor of. Other things. And we sang Eli to Rock. Remember
Eli
that?
to Rock. Shout, shout.
And one day, Donna and I were making a choir robe. We actually made them, remember?
Yes, we did.
And our kids were playing, and they were up, and John was up on a little box, and he's doing this, and Amy's making noise, and what are you doing? Singing Elijah Shrunk. It was a really wonderful time. When we did Sing Shalom, I lost my place in the music, and I thought, what am I going to do? I don't know music notes in Hebrew, you know. So I just kept playing, and it came out even, and that happened several times, and we decided it was the intervention of the Holy Spirit. I was playing, what was it? Good Tidings to Zion for Idella one time.
Tell us good tidings of Zion in my solo over from the side.
Messiah. She skipped 2 pages. And I somehow knew exactly what she was doing. I thought, I just skipped 2 pages. And
I did that a lot.
Right on with it. We started over a few times each. But the music was good. We did Godspell, a whole bunch of Godspell. But nothing quite equal to I found Jesus and I don't need you, I guess.
Donna, tell about the two of us. We didn't sing.
I'm not sure quite how it became an issue, but Idella and I started singing together many years ago. And
Yeah, right when you came.
as soon as I came, it was just like, I got sucked right in. Well, Marcia said, oh, well, Donna has a nice voice, she can sing on the choir. And that's how I got in the choir. But Idella and I did a lot of singing together. And I think that was one of the wonderful things that I remember about growing up in the church here, was being able to have the music ministry with Idella. And sometimes she sang different words than were in the music. But it always worked out. I don't know quite how it
We both forget the word, but we end up make up it be the same word.
We were very fortunate that we had each other. But we've also found that when we sing, if we touched one another, it worked. And it was like the Spirit was within us when we did that. And when Karen started the trio, the same thing. We had to stand holding each other so that we had that closeness of harmony as well as closeness of spirit, and it always worked. And I miss singing with the trio a lot.
Yeah.
So,
What was the name of the trio?
the reverse Oreos.
The reverse Oreo.
Reverse Oreos, because we had 2 whites and a black. But we just call ourselves the Oreos for a while.
Ben, tell about our, over at the school where we.
Oh my gosh, you have it?
I'm not gonna tell them about it, this is your show.
Wow.
This is an early choir room.
When we moved from the Presbyterian church so we could get a 10 o'clock, when we moved from the Presbyterian church so we could get a 10 o'clock service at Faulkner Ridge, that we had just ended up hired John Wood, we had just chartered, and John Woodall was our pastor. But we did a big, Ben, what was the name of that cantata we did? And these were our outfits.
That's right.
This was our End Up Rose. But,
Amazing and dramatic.
and we also had, I guess, Jan Griffin joined us early, and she had the Gospel Messengers. And they went around to nursing homes and the mental institutions, those little children. Terry Burks, right there. Terry was in one of the solos in that choir. And ended up Terry knows. And here, this is the
robe.
This is my nephew's, but I got my children's robes too in the choir. I brought the shortest one. All right.
Ben, can I say something while they? I remember when I came to the church and someone asked me, would you like to join the choir? I was so good, I said, not at this time. I said, but perhaps my husband might want to join, he likes singing. So that's when they asked him, would he join the choir?
He was trouble.
But when they asked Terry, where do you get your musical talent from? Your mother, Terry laughed 5 minutes. I didn't think it was so funny. But she said, no, not for my mother.
I got it from my dad.
But what I remember is
You or your dad reincarnated.
Donna, you and Dave invited us to your house. And at that time, you invited people from the church to come and visit. And at that time, this was our first experience at going to a mixed church. And we had visited quite a few of the churches in the area, trying to decide on which one. And at that time, John Woodall had such a warm spirit, and I didn't know at that time an effective memory. He could remember. And the next Sunday when he saw us and he said, oh, the Brookses are back to join us. He thought that was so neat. Here was someone, and when y'all said, why don't you come over? And we said, we go into their house. But you made us feel so welcome. So it's just to say, all of you made an impact, and we don't know what an impact we make on others just by a kind word.
That's right.
So we're grateful. And we're grateful for tonight and your sharing too.
I would like for Donna to tell the story about the communion when you had to change.
John Woodall had a different way of doing communion, and you really never knew exactly how it was going to come out. But this one particular time, we passed the bread, and he was talking, and he said, my friend Beverly Brown, and had her 2 boys with her. And we were all sitting together, and the boys, you know how kids are, they do things with their hands, and they were rolling around the bread in their hands, and it dropped on the floor, and they picked it up, and they were rolling it some more. And John said, Now, I would like you to share the bread with the person on your left. And bless her heart, Beverly ate it. But we laughed through the whole thing. It was really not very spiritual, but, and then sometimes we had kids in the front row who were very silent. Kieran Lessiker and a bunch of other kids would sit in the front row, and the choir used to see all this stuff happening. And he very quietly took a magic marker and drew glasses and a mustache on his own face. Never said a word, never, bothered the kids on either side of him. His mother was appalled when she was across the room and she saw this happening. But he was very well behaved. And the other incident was when Steve's daughter,
Carol.
Earl, was sitting in the front row, and he was sermonizing, and she took his Bible and folded every page in half. Very quietly, and he couldn't do a thing because he was preaching. You could tell he wanted to grab that Bible out of her hand. And again, the choir just gets so easily distracted, but she was very quiet about it. So there are whole kinds of things that would happen during a service that it's probably good the choir doesn't sit at the front anymore.
Can somebody tell us about the salt service?
I don't remember that.
I do.
Well, you tell it.
I do remember it. That was at Abiding Savior, and John Woodall was doing one of his creative services again. He was preaching about ye are the salt of the earth, and to illustrate this somehow, he passed around bowls of salt. We all had to put our fingers in the salt or something. I can't remember how we got our fingers wet.
Yeah.
And got salt on the end, and then eat the salt. Well, it wasn't 2 minutes until we were all going, we didn't get anything to drink. I don't know what happened to the drink. And I don't remember the point of that either, but that was one of our mishaps. The other one was that Christmas thing where he and, I think it was Howard Miller, I'm not sure, had a little box, and they were having a conversation of great importance, theological content. And Howard said, "What's in the box, John?" And John said, "Peace and love for all mankind." And somehow we just all split into great deals of laughter. And there were just all kinds of things like that. John was a really good preacher. You'd be talking to him before church, and whatever you said would show up in the sermon. But he had a flair. He was extremely charismatic. But different sort.
What about the time that he thought that Thelma's kids were orphans?
Mike.
Oh. One Sunday morning, John was talking about young people coming to church, and Thelma Holliday's 2 kids were in the front row, Keisha and Billy, were in the front row, and he actually pointed them out as he thought that they were so wonderful, these poor orphan children coming to church all by themselves. We were hysterical because Thelma was in the choir, so she was right there, but he didn't. For some reason, he thought they were orphan children.
We're about to wrap up. Do we have any final memories? 30 seconds each sort of thing?
I just wanted to mention when we were here at the church that the other congregations, the Christian church and the Lutheran church and the Catholic one, they participated with us in doing the Messiah in our big music.
Yeah.
I have a
question. I just want to comment. One of my first experiences with the church, I went on a retreat. And I'd never been on a retreat with this bunch before. I can tell you, Leilani was my bunkmate up top. But that first night, all of a sudden Nancy Timer said, "Come on, everybody, let's have a panty raid." And we go on and we're looking for the cabins for the men, the people in the men's cabins. I said, nobody will believe this church. It was all very innocent. But, I mean, and I went up right along with them. You know, it was fun out there in the dark without much less.
Was that before or after the Ranger people broke up the Northers?
That was one of my best childhood memories of going to the retreats. They were the best. And I decided that I was going to go to the bathroom in the woods. I leaned back on my arms and came back with poison ivy. Dad wrapped me up like I'd never been wrapped up before. But it was the best trip ever. I scratched the whole weekend. But it was
At least it was just on your arms.
bathroom in the woods. It's not good.
One of my first memories with CBF, we went on a retreat to Camp Lent. Apparently the men had to go to outhouses, and the women found a bunch of toilets under the kitchen.
Lots of drinking.
And they had Meg and I take a toilet and put it on the men's steps so they couldn't get out of their cabin.
Okay. Moving right along.
We can't hear you, man.
I gotta live with her, Sylvia.
I just wanted to say one thing about the first service in Meeting House. It was our service. It was sunrise at Easter, and they weren't finished cleaning the Meeting House out. The builders, they were supposed to have it ready. So a whole bunch of us stayed here all night long, carrying out trash and sweeping the floors and cleaning everything up, and putting the lilies around the piano, which was in the middle of room 100. And the piano was totally covered by lilies. There was enough room for the music, and that was it. It was beautiful. It was just wonderful. And is that the first time we sang Hallelujah? I'm not sure. The choir circled 100, which then was wonderful for music.
The acoustics were
Yeah.
awesome.
They don't work for anything anymore that I know of, but they did work for music then. And we sang Hallelujah and did it a cappella.
To this day. To this day.
That was our song.
Yeah, that was our song, yeah, we sang it.
You know, it's been fun looking back. Memories are fun. The question is, what are we gonna do now? You know, you can take 2 points and you can connect one point to another, and that gives you a direction. And that's where you're gonna wind up unless you make some changes. So you can look from where we've come to where we are now, and if we don't change, that's the direction we'll keep going. Question is that the direction the Lord is calling us to do today? Is that where we should be going? It's a whole different group of people. The folks up here didn't have all that gray hair before.
Somebody's disagreeing with me. The lady with the red hair over there.
But it's time for us to make some choices, that's all. What do we do next? We get to create the next 45 years of history. Thanks, guys.
Do Dan and Earl maybe have anything to end up on?
I think I better quit.
Oh, Dan and Earl I was asking about. You guys have anything? No?
Earl,
Earl?
tell them about the Halloween party, how you would dress up for the Halloween party.
Your costume.
Your costume for the Halloween parties.
Oh.
Use the mic.
Let's see if I can remember. Well, I've, messed around and I didn't get a costume per se. And I was trying to figure out what to do. So when I showed up, I said, well, really what it is, I think a 30-year-old white guy masquerading as a black fellow. Is that
No white face, please.
I'd just like to say though, we have a few little things up here from back in the 70s and you know, if some of you like to look at a few of the things.
Thank you.
Let's give them a hand. This has been so much fun. Thank you, because I know it was not easy for all of you to come. Dan in particular made a real effort to be here, and I am grateful. Thanks to Rebecca, we have this on camera. This can, I guess, be on YouTube, and this will be a record of this night. Because there'll be other people like my wife who are not here who want to see it. So thank you for being our plank owners. Thank you for sticking it out for a long time. Thank you for getting us started, for reminding us about the direction we're going. And one of the directions, of course, is through Pastor Andrew and all these young people that God's brought to us. We are having an impact in our community. I don't know what it was like in the old days, but we are certainly having an impact in the community now that's unlike anything in my tenure, and we give thanks to God for that. And we will welcome these young people and their families a week from tomorrow at that service of baptism. Lord, thank you for those who have gone before us, particularly these 5 sisters and brothers who have shared with us their story. Thank you for all the lives on which we stand, for all the laughter and all the ridiculous things and all the serious things and all the holy things, and many of them were all those things at once, that have built the platform on which we live and worship and serve today. And as Ben has reminded us, Lord, help us to be faithful with the heritage we have received. Make us creative, make us joyful, make us committed, make us open to what you want us to do, that in this place your kingdom may come still, further, more on earth as it is in heaven, through Christ our Lord. Amen. Amen. That's all. Remember, there's stuff up here to look at.
I know Tim and Barrett would like to see our 1975 budget.
Okay.